These scars, they remind me of the price of power.
I see now. We're not so different.
The rain falls like bullets against the night sky. She asks, trembling, not from the cold, but from HIM. Dimitri Romanoff stands across the room, all muscle and menace, his dark eyes burning with something dangerous. She has been running from him for 3 years. But tonight, when he sees the scars hidden beneath her sleeve, everything changes forever. If you believe in second chances, impossible love, and stories where darkness finally finds light, please like this video, subscribe to never miss another emotional journey like this, and comment below. What would you risk for someone who terrifies and captivates you at the same time? Let us get into this story. The boardroom of Romanoff Enterprises smells like power and money. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook Moscow's glittering skyline, but inside, it's cold, colder than any winter could make it. 20 suits sit around a mahogany table, their shoulders hunched, their eyes avoiding the man at the head. Dimitri Romanoff doesn't need to raise his voice to command a room. His silence is louder than any threat. He is 34 years old and owns half the city, not through legitimate business, though the company facade is there, pristine and respectable. No, Dimitri Romanoff earned his empire the old-fashioned way, blood, ruthlessness, and a complete absence of mercy. His father built the foundation. His uncle nearly destroyed it. Dimitri rebuilt it into something unstoppable. People fear him. It's in the way they hold their breath around him, in the way they choose their words carefully, as if one wrong syllable might cost them their lives. Some of that fear is earned. Most of it is exactly the way he prefers it. The shipment was intercepted, one of the executives stammers. Dimitri sets down his pen, a small movement, almost lazy, but every person in the room tenses. Explain to me how 50 million euros worth of inventory simply disappears. The executive's face goes pale. Dimitri waits. He is good at waiting. Patience is a weapon that most people never master. They crack under the pressure of silence. They confess. They beg. And Dimitri watches it all unfold with the detached interest of someone watching ants work inside a farm. We investigating, sir. There are leads. I don't want leads. I want results, and I want them by Friday. Dimitri glances at his watch, a Patek Philippe worth more than most people's houses. You have 72 hours. If I don't have answers, I'll have your head mounted on my office wall. Metaphorically speaking, of course. It's not metaphorical at all. Everyone in the room knows it. The meeting dissolves into chaos. Executives scatter like roaches when the light comes on. Dimitri remains seated, staring out at the city he owns. His bodyguard, Misha, a mountain of a man with a scar running from his left eyebrow to his jaw, enters silently. Your 3:00 clock is waiting downstairs. The interior designer, she asks, nervous. They always are, Dimitri says flatly. Dimitri has just commissioned the renovation of his penthouse. Not because he cares about the color of his walls or the thread count of his sheets. He cares because his mother insists that a man of his status should have a home that reflects his position. His mother also insists that he should be married by now, that he should think about legacy and heirs and normal human things. His mother, thankfully, lives in St. Petersburg and takes no for an answer approximately never. The interior designer waits in the private lounge outside his office. Misha escorts her in, and Dimitri barely glances up from his computer. When he does look, he wishes he hadn't tea. She is standing by the window, her back to him, and the afternoon light catches her hair like gold. She is wearing professional clothes, a navy blazer, white blouse, fitted skirt that ends at her knee. But there is something about her that screams she doesn't belong in a world like this. She is too soft, too gentle, too alive. Ms. Volkov, he asks, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. She turns, and for a moment, their eyes meet. Dimitri sees fear flash across her face, pure instinctive terror. Her hands tremble slightly as she walks toward him. She is wearing long sleeves despite the warm office, and he notices how she keeps her arms carefully at her sides, never letting them swing naturally. Yes, Mr. Romanoff, she says, and her voice is soft, careful, like she's speaking to a dangerous animal. "Thank you for seeing me. My mother hired you. I am obliging my mother." He gestures to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." She sits, perching on the edge like she might need to flee at any moment. Smart instinct. Dimitri leans back in his chair, studying her with the same intensity he'd used to evaluate a business threat. "I am Veronica Sokolov," she introduces herself. "I specialize in luxury residential design. I've worked on 17 high-end properties in Moscow, and my portfolio includes 3 homes for members of the government and—" "I don't care about your portfolio," he interrupts. She falls silent. "My mother wants the penthouse to look like something from a magazine. Make it happen. Budget is unlimited. Timeline is 6 weeks. Do not ask me questions. Do not request my input. Simply make it beautiful and stay out of my way." It is a deliberately cruel dismissal. Most people wilt under it. Veronica flinches and her hands grip her lap so tightly that her knuckles turn white. But she doesn't crumble. She meets his eyes, and for just a second he sees something other than fear, a glimmer of strength, a flash of spine. "I'll need access to the penthouse," she says quietly. "Misha will arrange it." She leaves a few minutes later, and Dimitri returns to his work. He forgets about her immediately. She is a contractor, nothing more. A temporary fixture in a penthouse that, honestly, he spends less than half the month in. He should forget about her. He will forget about her. But somehow, over the next 3 weeks, he doesn't. Veronica works at night. Dimitri discovers this during his first evening back at the penthouse in nearly a month. He is not supposed to be there. His plans were to remain at his downtown office building, which has its own residential suite. But a business deal fell through, and he returned home in a foul mood, his patience razor-thin and his violent streak closer to the surface than usual. He enters through the private elevator and finds the main living room transformed into organized chaos. Fabric swatches cover the pristine furniture. Wallpaper samples line the walls. Paint can stand sentinel in the corner. And in the middle of it all, balanced precariously on a ladder, is Veronica. She is wearing overalls that are speckled with paint, and her hair is tied back in a haphazard ponytail. She is holding a paintbrush above her head, concentrating on something on the ceiling, and the overhead lights catch the delicate line of her neck, the softness of her profile. She doesn't notice him. He watches her for almost a minute, which is unusual for him, this loss of control, this moment of simply observing instead of commanding. Then his phone buzzes, breaking the spell, and he snaps back to himself. "What are you doing here at midnight?" His voice is sharp enough to cut glass. She nearly falls off the ladder. Her feet scramble for purchase, and Dimitri moves without thinking, crossing the room in 3 strides and steadying the ladder with both hands. For a moment, his hands are mere inches from hers as she grips the wooden sides, and he can feel her trembling. "I work better at night," she says breathlessly, descending the ladder quickly. The moment her feet touch the floor, she moves away from him, putting the ladder between them like a physical barrier. When the apartment is quiet, when there is no one around. "You afraid of me?" She doesn't deny it. She can the fear is written all over her face, in her rapid breathing, in the way her eyes quite meet his, in the subtle shift of her body away from him. "I am cautious," she corrects quietly. "There is a difference." "Is there?" He leans against the kitchen counter, watching her gather her supplies with nervous efficiency. Caution implies a rational assessment of threat. What I am seeing is raw, primal fear, which suggests, Ms. Volkov, that you know exactly what I am, and what I am capable of. She pauses in the act of organizing her brushes, her hands still for just a moment. "Everyone in Moscow knows what you are," she says softly. "It would be foolish to pretend otherwise. Yet you took the job. Your mother was kind to me when I was starting out, when no one else would work with someone my age, without connections, without a family name that opened doors." She finally meets his eyes, and he sees something that wasn't there before: gratitude, loyalty, a thread of obligation that runs deeper than fear. "She helped me." I am helping her. He nods slowly. Continue your work then. Pretend I am not here. That's impossible, she whispers, more to herself than to him. He pretends he didn't hear that. Over the next few weeks, Dimitri finds excuses to return to the penthouse. Business reasons, mostly, calls that need to be made, emails that need to be sent. Things he could just as easily do at his office, but somehow he doesn't. Veronica maintains her schedule of nighttime work, but she's expanded her hours, arriving earlier and leaving later. Sometimes she's there when he is, and they navigate around each other like dancers who haven't learned the steps. He works in his study. She works in the living spaces. They exist in carefully maintained distance. But he notices things about her. He notices that she never eats anything in the penthouse, though she works 10, sometimes 12 hours. So he starts having food brought in, nothing expensive, nothing that might frighten her, just simple things. Sandwiches from the Italian place downstairs, fruit, coffee. She doesn't touch any of it at first. But eventually, hunger wins out over fear, and he watches the corner of his eye as she eats a sandwich while reviewing color samples. He notices that she speaks to his staff with genuine kindness, asking about their families, remembering their names, thanking them for small things. His housekeeper, Katia, who is usually terrified of him, warms to Veronica immediately. So does Misha. Even his driver, who hasn't smiled in years, softens when Veronica compliments his new car. He notices that she's careful with the penthouse, treating it not like a project, but like a home. She reads the space, understands it, works with its natural light and architectural bones rather than against them. And most dangerously, he notices that her fear of him is slowly, incrementally diminishing. One night, a Thursday in the early hours of morning, he finds her crying in his kitchen. She's sitting at the island, her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking silently. She's so absorbed in whatever storm is raging inside her that she doesn't hear him enter. For once, he doesn't announce his presence. He simply stands in the doorway, watching her fall apart, and for the first time in his life, Dimitri Romanoff feels utterly powerless. "Ms. Volkov," he says quietly. She jumps, her hands flying to her face, and she stands too quickly, her chair scraping violently against the marble floor. "I am sorry. I'll leave. I didn't mean to." "Sit." He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. She sits, pulling her hands into her lap, her knuckles white again with tension. He moves to the refrigerator and removes a bottle of vodka that costs more than most people's monthly rent. He pours 2 glasses with the precision of someone who has done this 1,000 times. He sets one in front of her. "Drink." "I don't." "Drink." She drinks. She coughs. Her eyes water. And for some reason, he finds this almost endearing, her visible struggle with the vodka, her body's rejection of something so harsh. "What happened?" he asks. "Nothing, everything. I received a call from my sister." She reaches for the vodka again, and this time she doesn't cough. "My father has had another stroke. The doctors don't think he'll recover this time. She's in St. Petersburg with him, but she has no money, no way to afford the treatments that might help. We've tried everything. Insurance doesn't cover experimental treatments, and the public hospitals are." She trails off, staring at the glass in her hands. "How much?" His voice is matter of fact. "What? How much money do you need to save your father's life?" She shakes her head. "More than I could earn in 10 years, more than it doesn't matter. Some things are beyond saving." He studies her across the island. She's made a visible effort to compose herself, but her eyes are still red, her voice still broken with the weight of grief. This woman has walked through his home for weeks in a state of constant, underlying terror, doing beautiful work, treating his space with reverence, and all the while carrying the knowledge that her father is dying and she's powerless to stop it. Dimitri has built an empire on understanding leverage, on seeing what people need and using it as a tool. But this is different. This isn't leverage. This is something else entirely. "I'll arrange the transfer," he says. She looks up sharply. "I can accept that. I would never." It's not an offer that allows for negotiation. He stands, moving to the window that overlooks the sleeping city. Your father will have the best treatment available. The cost is irrelevant to me. There has to be a price. Her voice is small, frightened. Everyone wants something in return. He turns to look at her. In the darkness of the kitchen, with only the city lights illuminating her face, she looks like something fragile that might shatter if he breathes too hard. The price, he says quietly, is that you stop being afraid of me. She laughs, a broken, desperate sound. That is not something I can control. Yes, it is. Fear is a choice. You've made the choice to fear me because I fit a certain image, a certain expectation. But you Ray not looking at me. Not really. You Ray looking at your own assumptions. I know what you are. Her voice shakes. I know about the people who disappeared after crossing you. I know about the import business that is really a front for something darker. I know you Ray dangerous. Yes, he agrees. I am dangerous. I am also the man who ensured that Katia's daughter got into a good university. I am the man who helped the night guard pay for his mother's surgery. I am the man who just agreed to save your father's life. He steps closer, and she doesn't retreat. Progress. So stop being afraid of the version of me you've imagined. Try, instead, to see the man standing in front of you. She doesn't respond, but she doesn't pull away. The phone call comes at 6 in the morning. Veronica's voice is shaking as she calls him, not with fear this time, but with emotion so thick it is almost tangible. He is awake, she says. My father. They said the treatment worked and Dimitri, he is going to be okay. He is going to live. Dimitri is still in bed, his phone against his ear, listening to the sound of her falling apart in gratitude. It is the first time she called him by his first name. The first time she used his name without the formal barrier of Mr. Romanoff. I am glad, he says, and he means it. I don't know how to thank you. I don't have the words. You don't need words. After she hangs up, he lies in the darkness of his bedroom and realizes that for the first time in his life, a business transaction has become something else. Something dangerous. Something he never allowed himself to feel. He is becoming attached to her. Over the next 2 weeks, the penthouse transformation accelerates. Veronica brings samples that are warmer, more alive. She introduces colors where before there was only black, white, and gray. She adds layers, textures, art, objects that speak to human joy rather than corporate power. And somehow, impossibly, it works. The cold penthouse becomes warm. Not physically. The temperature remains the same. But spiritually, emotionally, it transforms into something that almost resembles a home. Dimitri finds reasons to be there, and she finds reasons to stay. They talk, carefully at first, then with increasing openness. He learns that she grew up in a small town near the Ukrainian border, that her father was a teacher, that she has a sister 2 years younger who dreams of becoming a doctor, that she came to Moscow at 22 with nothing but a portfolio of designs she'd done herself and a desperate hope that someone would take a chance on her. He learns that she's been in Moscow for 7 years and has never been to the places that tourists visit. That she's afraid of heights and dogs and phone calls from unknown numbers. That her favorite food is her grandmother's pelmeni, which she hasn't had in 3 years. That she hums while she works, a soft, unconscious habit that he finds himself listening for. She learns, gradually, that his coldness is a defense mechanism. That his father died when he was 19, and his uncle nearly destroyed everything, and Dimitri had to choose between walking away or fighting. That he chose to fight and built something so powerful that no one could ever hurt him again. That the ruthlessness people fear is just armor, expertly crafted, perfectly maintained, but armor nonetheless. She never asks him directly about his violence, but one night, when he mentions an enemy who didn't survive their conflict, she goes still. She doesn't condemn him. She just listens, absorbs the darkness, and chooses to see him anyway. One evening, as she's touching up some paint in the bedroom, she reaches for something on a high shelf, and her sleeve rides up. Dimitri, sitting on the bed behind her, sees something that stops his breath. Scars, deep, deliberate, surgical-looking scars that run along the inside of her wrist. Multiple scars, old scars, the kind that don't come from accidents. She realizes he's seen them at the exact moment her sleeve falls back down and her body goes rigid. Fear floods her face, not fear of him, but fear of something far deeper. Shame, exposure, the terror of being truly seen. Dante, she whispers. He stands slowly, moving toward her. She flinches, but doesn't run. He takes her hand gently, so gently, and pushes her sleeve back up, revealing the landscape of scars mapped across her wrist and forearm. When? He asks quietly. College and for a few years after. She can barely speak. It was a way to cope. With anxiety, with pressure, with everything feeling too heavy. I don't do it anymore. I haven't in 6 years, but... He brings her wrist to his mouth and presses a kiss to the scars. It is such a simple gesture, such a small thing, but she makes a sound, half gasp, half sob, and turns into him, her arms coming around his neck, her face burying itself against his chest. He holds her, this soft woman with the scarred wrists and the gentle hands who has somehow, impossibly, become necessary to him. You ray not broken, he says into her hair. You ray not unworthy. You survived, and that is the most powerful thing a person can be. She cries, holding on to him like he is the only solid thing in a world that has been spinning out of control. And he realizes, with absolute clarity, that he would burn the world down before he let anything hurt her. He would burn the world down, and he would smile while doing it. The penthouse is finished on a Tuesday in October. The transformation is complete, walls painted in warm taupes and soft greens, art hanging in perfectly considered galleries, furniture arranged to invite rather than intimidate. The cold executive space has become a sanctuary. Veronica walks through it one final time, checking details, making micro-adjustments. Dimitri watches from the doorway, seeing not just the beautiful space she has created, but the woman who created it. The woman who has been afraid of him and somehow over these months has stopped being. Or has she? He is still Dimitri Romanoff, still dangerous, still someone whose name is whispered with fear in certain circles. It is beautiful, he says. She turns, and there is sadness in her eyes. You don't have to keep coming back now. The project is done. Is that what you want? For me to disappear? I want... She trails off, struggling with the words. I want you to do whatever is best for you. I am not naive enough to think that a man like you could actually want a woman like me. I understand the boundaries of reality. He crosses the room toward her, and she holds her ground, another small victory. When he asks close enough, he reaches out and touches her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. She closes her eyes at the contact. Here is what is real, he says softly. I've spent 15 years building an empire and acquiring things, power, money, respect. None of it means anything. But these past months, watching you work, getting to know you, learning to exist near you without the weight of fear between us, that means something. You mean something. Dimitri, I am aware that I am not capable of being normal. I am aware that loving someone like me comes with complications and darkness and inherent danger. But I am aware that I love you. That is the realest thing in my world. She opens her eyes, and they ray shining with tears. That is the most dangerous thing you've ever said to me. I know. If you love me, you'll walk away. You'll let me go, and I'll fade out of your life, and eventually, we'll both be safer. I am not going anywhere, and I am not letting you go. He leans down until their foreheads are touching. You don't have to be afraid anymore, Veronica. Not of me, not of what we are. I am not going anywhere. She kisses him then, tentatively at first, like she is afraid he might disappear if she holds too tightly. But he doesn't disappear. He pulls her closer, and the kiss deepens into something that feels like a promise. When they finally pull apart, she asks, smiling through her tears. What about your world? She asks softly. The one you've been so careful to protect. You ray part of it now. You have been for months, and anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to take it up with me. 2 weeks later, that becomes relevant. Dimitri's phone rings at 3 a.m. It asks Misha. In the darkness of the bedroom, he can hear the tension in his bodyguard's voice. "There's a problem," Misha says. Dimitri is out of bed and pulling on clothes before he finishes the sentence. Veronica wakes, reaching for him in the dark. "What happened?" she whispers. "I have to go." He presses a kiss to her forehead. "Don't leave this apartment. Don't open the door for anyone. Misha will be outside the entire time." "Dimitri." But he's already gone. The problem is a rival, a man named Viktor Karpov, someone Dimitri has competed with for years. Viktor is old school, ruthless, and has apparently decided that the time has come to settle their long-standing rivalry. He's made a move against several of Dimitri's operations, positions that Dimitri has carefully cultivated. But worse than that, far worse, is what Viktor's men found. They find Veronica. Dimitri gets the call at 5 a.m. His blood turns to ice when Misha tells him Viktor has her. Viktor knows about her, knows about the paintings in her apartment, knows that Dimitri goes to her regularly. And now, Viktor has her. The rage that floods him is unlike anything he has ever experienced. It's not cold and calculated. It's hot and wild and consuming. He wants to burn the city down. He wants to find Viktor and make his death last for days. But he can because doing so will get Veronica killed. Viktor calls him an hour later, and his voice is smug with satisfaction. "Let her go," Dimitri says flatly. "I will, under certain conditions. You step back from the Eastern territories, you release your claim to the port operation, and you publicly acknowledge my leadership over your own. Do all of that, and your little designer walks away with her hands intact. Refuse, and I'll send her back to you piece by piece." Dimitri's jaw clenches. How do I know she's alive? "Put him on the phone." He hears movement, a struggle, and then Veronica's voice, shaking and terrified but alive. "I am sorry," she whispers. "I went to get flowers for the apartment and they took me so fast. I am here. I am going to get you out of this." He presses his forehead against his desk. "I promise you, Veronica, I promise you on everything I am." "The flowers are still in my hands," she says, and it is such an odd thing to say that he nearly misses the message. But he doesn't the flowers. She is telling him where she is. The flower shop where she likes to buy stems for his apartment, it is near the old warehouse district. "I heard you," he says quietly. The line goes dead. He has 4 hours before Viktor's ultimatum expires. 4 hours to orchestrate a rescue without getting Veronica killed. 4 hours to plan the ending of a rivalry that should have been settled years ago. He moves quickly, calling his people, setting plans in motion. Misha gathers the team. They rate professionals. They understand what's at stake. They understand that this is no longer about business. This is about the survival of the one person Dimitri Romanoff has allowed into his carefully guarded heart. The warehouse is dark and cold, and Veronica is terrified in a way that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the weight of love and consequence. She realizes now that she's been naive to think that falling for someone like Dimitri wouldn't have repercussions, that his world wouldn't eventually pull her in, that the shadows he walks in wouldn't try to consume her. Viktor paces in front of her, smoking a cigarette, reviewing Dimitri's response to his demands. "Your boyfriend is smart," Viktor says. "He's actually considering my terms. I thought he'd come in guns blazing, all passion and rage, but no, he's thinking strategically. Cold, professional." Viktor smiles. "Maybe I underestimated him." "He'll find a way," Veronica says quietly. "He'll figure out how to save me, and he'll destroy you." "Such faith," Viktor says mockingly. "Let us see if it's warranted." The explosion happens at 7:47 p.m. It's not the building. It's one of Viktor's supply trucks parked outside. The blast rocks the entire warehouse, and Viktor's men immediately scatter, responding to the chaos. Veronica hears gunfire, the sounds of combat, the screaming of men. And then, through the darkness and dust, a figure emerges. Dimitri. He S holding a gun, and his face is an expression of controlled fury. He shoots 2 of Victor S. men without hesitation, without emotion, without any sign of the man she S grown to know. He S becomes something else, a weapon, an instrument of vengeance. When he sees Veronica, something shifts in his expression. The coldness cracks just for a moment, and she sees fear underneath, genuine fear for her safety. "Are you hurt?" He S at her side in 2 strides, his hands checking her for injuries, his eyes scanning for threats. "No, we Ray leaving." He takes her hand, and they run out of the warehouse into the Moscow night toward a car waiting with Misha at the wheel. Behind them, Victor S. operation is burning. Behind them, the sound of gunfire continues, but they Ray moving away from it towards safety. In the car, speeding through empty streets, Veronica can finally breathe again. She realizes she S shaking, severe, full-body shakes that she can control. Dimitri pulls her against him, one hand on the back of her head, his lips pressing against her hair. "You Ray safe," he murmurs. "You Ray safe, IV got you." "What did you do?" she whispers. "What did you do to Victor?" "What I should have done years ago." She doesn't ask for details. She doesn't want them. She just holds on to him as the car carries them through the night, as the life she S built over these past months crashes down around her ears. Because everything is about to change. The police come at dawn. They arrest Dimitri for racketeering, money laundering, and suspicion of murder. The charges are serious, substantial, and carry mandatory prison time. Veronica stands in the penthouse she designed, watching them lead him away in handcuffs. She S shaking again, but this time, it S not fear. It S the terrible realization that she S been complicit in his world without ever actually understanding the depth of it. "I am sorry," she says, and the words feel hollow. He turns to look at her one last time before they take him out. "Go to your sister. Take the money, the full amount for the penthouse project plus 3 times that. Use it to build a life. Get out of Moscow. Disappear." "I am not leaving you." "Yes, you are." His voice is firm, final. "This is the deal I am making. You go free. You start over. You forget about me and build something beautiful with your life. That's the price of my love, that you take this opportunity and you run." "Dimitri." "Misha will protect you, but from now on, I am poison. Being associated with me will only destroy you. I want to have that. Do you understand me?" She nods through her tears, but she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand how they can have found each other and be ripped apart so quickly. She doesn't understand how love can be this painful, this destructive. He goes to prison for 18 months. She leaves Moscow. She uses the money to relocate her sister and get her enrolled in medical school in Prague. She starts a design business in Prague, slowly building a reputation, slowly rebuilding herself. But a part of her stays frozen in that penthouse, waiting for him, thinking of him, unable to move on. She gets letters, not official mail, because he insists on maintaining distance, but coded letters sent through Misha. He writes about the prison, about his books, about plans for when he gets out. And despite everything, despite the pain and the separation, she writes back. The day Dimitri is released, Veronica is in her Prague apartment, designing a luxury hotel renovation. She doesn't know he S being released. He S kept it from her deliberately. So when her door opens and he S standing there, looking thinner and harder but undeniably free, her heart nearly stops. "You shouldn't be here," she says, even as her feet are already carrying her toward him. "No lease on my time anymore," he says softly. "I served my sentence. I am a free man. And if the authorities are watching you, then they see me take back what is mine." He pulls her into his arms, and it feels like coming home. She buries her face against his chest, breathing him in, marveling at the reality of his presence. He S real. He S here. He S not a ghost or a memory or a figment of her desperate imagination. "I am not the same man you knew," he says quietly, his lips against her hair. "Neither am I, but I am still the same woman who fell in love with you." He pulls back just enough to look at her, and she sees something raw and vulnerable in his expression. I have very little to offer you now. The empire is dismantled. The money is mostly gone, seized by the government, spent on lawyers, distributed to the people I hurt. I am rebuilding something small, something legitimate. It is not what I was before. Good. He kisses her then, tenderly, reverently, like she is something precious and breakable. And she realizes that everything has changed. The man before her is still Dimitri, still powerful, still dangerous, but the armor is gone. The cold facade has been replaced with something warmer, something more human. I love you, he says against her mouth. I've loved you every single day I was in prison, and I'll love you for the rest of my life. Promise, she is asking for so much more than the words. She is asking for a guarantee that he won't disappear again, that this time he'll stay, that they'll figure out how to build something real from the ashes of their past. I promise. They don't rush. They take time, months of rebuilding trust, of relearning each other, of creating something new from the foundation of what they were. He moves to Prague with her. They design a home together, something small and beautiful in theirs. No penthouses, no excess, just a space that reflects who they've become. He starts legitimate businesses, importing, real estate, consulting. It is honest work, quiet work. It doesn't make him powerful, but it makes him free. And on a spring evening, with cherry blossoms falling outside their window, he proposes to her in the simplest way possible. No ring, no grand gesture, just him on one knee asking her to spend her life with him. She says yes, before he even finishes the question. Their wedding is small, just family and a few close friends. Veronica's father walks her down the aisle, his strength returned by the miracles of modern medicine and Dimitri's generosity. Her sister is her maid of honor. Misha stands as Dimitri's best man, and everyone is crying, though not from sadness, from the sheer, overwhelming joy of witnessing two broken people learn to fix each other. Dimitri looks at his bride, this woman who was once afraid of him, who saw his scars and chose him anyway, whose gentle hands built beauty in his cold places, and realizes that this is the empire that matters, not the money or the power or the fear. It is the way she looks at him like he is worthy of love. It is the way their hands fit together. It is the promise they are making to each other. I have something for you, he says at the reception, pulling her aside before the dancing begins. He hands her a small box. Inside is a simple gold bracelet. Hanging from it are charms, each one a memory, a paintbrush for her design work, a book for his love of reading, a flower for those he bought her during those months in the penthouse, a hospital symbol for her father's recovery, and a single scarred heart cast in gold hanging at the center. So you remember, he says quietly, that beautiful things can come from broken places, and that scars, whether on skin or on soul, don't define us. They just remind us that we survived. She puts on the bracelet with shaking hands, and when she looks up at him, there are tears streaming down her face. I love you, she says. I've never been more sure of anything in my entire life. And I love you, for every version of you I've known, and for every version yet to come. They dance while the Prague night falls around them, and the music plays, and somewhere deep inside his chest, Dimitri feels something unfamiliar and precious. He feels hope. He feels happiness. He feels redeemed. 5 years later, Veronica runs her own design firm with 17 employees. She has designed dozens of high-end residences and 3 major hotel renovations. Her work is sought after, respected, and genuinely beautiful. Dimitri runs legitimate businesses that generate substantial income, donate regularly to charities, and employ former convicts trying to rebuild their lives. He is not famous or infamous. He is just a man building something good, something real. They live in a converted farmhouse outside Prague with a garden that Veronica tends and a library that Dimitri fills with books. There's a room decorated in soft pastels and warm colors, ready for the child they are planning for next year. Sometimes, late at night, Veronica traces the scars on Dimitri's hands, hands that used to hurt people. hands that now touch her with gentleness and reverence. And he watches her with an expression of such complete devotion that anyone who knows him is shocked by the transformation. He was afraid of nothing and no one. And then he met a woman who was afraid of him, and somehow, in the process of helping her face that fear, he learned something he never expected to learn, that the most powerful thing a man can do is choose to be vulnerable, to be weak, to let someone in. On their 5th anniversary, he takes her back to Moscow, not to the penthouse. That building was sold years ago, but to the city itself. They walk through the streets where they first met, where she was terrified and he was untouchable, where love seemed impossible. "Do you regret it?" she asks as they stand on a bridge overlooking the Moskva River. "Any of it? The prison, the pain, the way everything fell apart." He pulls her close, his arm around her waist. "No, because every moment led to this, led to you, and you were the best thing that ever happened to me." She leans her head against his shoulder, watching the water flow beneath them, constant and inevitable, just like the love that binds them. What started as terror has become trust. What started as danger has become sanctuary. What started as darkness has become the most beautiful light she has ever known. "Thank you," she whispers. "For what?" "For being willing to change, for being willing to love me." He turns to face her, his hands cupping her face, his eyes searching hers. "Thank you for being brave enough to see past the scars, to see me." They kiss as the city lights come on around them, as the world turns, as their love story. The story of a woman afraid of a cold mafia boss and a man who learned to warm, continues to unfold.